My name is Michael Hill and this is Superbike News TV here at Donington Park for the 5th round of the World Superbike Championship. I'm joined now by a rider that I hold personally responsible for my venture into the world of motorcycle racing, Jim Whitham. And Jim, never done an interview with you, so I don't know whether I'm actually quite nervous, to be honest. I want to take you back before we start talking about what you've been doing since you've hung up your leathers. Back to Oliver's Mount at Scarborough, probably, I don't know, 20 odd years ago, and you were riding, I think at the time for Durex Suzuki, and the late Phil Mellor was your teammate, and I was a little 7-year-old hanging over the fence waving at you, and you were the only rider on the slowing down lap. I think you finished second in the race, and you waved at us, and I've got a little picture at home, and I personally hold you responsible for me getting involved with bikes. So thanks for that, mate.
I can only apologise. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't single you out. I probably waved at everybody.
I thought I was special, mate.
Yeah, very special. Yeah, special actually, Michael, yeah. I used to enjoy Scarborough. I think that was possibly the only time the British Championship went to Scarborough, 88 or 89.
It would have been 88, 89.
Yeah, I think because they went back to Scarborough after 20 years break from British Championship racing and just did it once. It was a good meeting for me. Enjoyed it.
So you went on from that to obviously race at various different sort of
classes,
classes and championships and whatever. Obviously BSB, British Superbikes, as it won Super Cup, I think it was called at the time.
Oh, various names, but same thing. Yeah.
Before you got into the World Championships, was racing what you always wanted to do? Is that kind of as you were growing up that I want to be a racer?
Yeah, my kind of eureka moment, shall we call it, that you had at Scarborough. Mine was actually in the Isle of Man. I was 11, and my dad had taken me across on the back of his bike to watch he always threatened to take me to the Isle of Man to the TT and never did until Halewood made the announcement that he were going to make his comeback in 78, and I'd be 10, and so we went across and we sat on a banking at a place called Glen Ellen, and it was a lovely day, and Mike Halewood saw Phil Reid off and won the race, and grown men were crying. It was really emotional, and even though I can never remember Halewood racing the first time round when he retired in '67, I just knew that he was an oldish bloke and he was making a comeback. It was so moving that I actually came away from the Isle of Man that day and thought, I want to race bikes, that's cool. So that was the same thing that you had at Scarborough. And it burned away at me ever since. You know how it does, you've had it. And then a good friend of mine that had been a friend for years from kids, because our fathers were friends, is called Dave Leach. And Dave Leach started racing and did really well, and I thought, well, on field bikes I'm kind of all right with him. I can go as quick, so I thought that would translate to I mean, I was only 16, so I got my dad to buy me a bike. My dad, I was fortunate in a lot of ways. The most fortunate thing was my dad had enough money to pay for me to go racing, and and you know what it's like. Once you start, it's a bug, and it's almost a disease at various points. You know, and as soon as I started doing it, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I just thought it was a cool thing to do, and I'd never done much in my life to that point that made me feel that cool or special. I was just one of the flipping crowd, you know, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
So you moved on then through the ranks, and again, we were talking off camera about obviously racing with Motocinelli, Ducati, through World Superbikes.
Yeah.
Never quite maybe had the success that I personally feel. You're always a hero of mine, as I always could have. I never think you maybe had the success that you deserved in terms of stringing a championship together. But then you went to Supersport. You had some bloody good rides in Supersport. Yeah,
but same thing in Supersport. I never, you know, I felt I had the talent to maybe win a championship, but I don't bleat about it. It was my mistakes that stopped me winning anything championship. I won a few British championships, but whether it's true or not, I'm not the type of bloke who looks back on my career and says, oh, if only I'd have done this or that, or that hadn't have happened. I look back and I think I probably did as well as what I deserved to do, and I can't really blame anybody else except myself for not doing better than I, did. So I'm quite happy with it. And even looking back on a career, I don't know what you think, I think that even some of the times that were really shit when it were happening, actually, I quite look back on them quite fondly now sometimes, even the bad bits seem kind of funny now. So no, I have no regrets at all.
And if you could sort of single out a race from your World Championship career, or any sort of period of your racing career, which is kind of the one that stands out for you?
You've always got to remember, my biggest win, I would say, on paper, would be the Indonesian World. We won an only World Superbike round win, which was at Indonesia. But in actual fact, the ride that I remember best was not because I thought I rode particularly better than any other time, but it was at Monza, and I was on a Belgarda bike, and I actually beat my teammate Casoli for the win in World Super Sport. And what made it really special is, number one, I love the circuit. It's fantastic. It's all about slipstreaming and thinking about what you're doing. And the other thing is, the Belgarda team is based at Monza. So we had 350 corporate guests there. It was a big pressure weekend for Belgarda. If I couldn't win in Britain, which I'd won at Donington and I'd also won at Silverstone on Super Sport bike, but that one seemed better because the Italians treat me like flipping somebody special, and it's just a really good meeting. I remember going into the Parabolica and I was leading it, and I thought, I've got this. Casoli came under me, and I thought, I tell you what, if you get that stopped and turned, you deserve it. You can have it. And he didn't. He just ran about 3 feet wide, exactly the same as Clazel and Lowe's, and he just couldn't hold the line. I just managed to get in there, and it was a good day. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. You've hung up your leathers obviously for a few years now. You haven't gone down the route that some riders have in terms of team management. You've gone sort of. I don't know what the word is, commentator, pundit, whatever you want to call it. Do you enjoy that part of the sport?
I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, I love being involved in a sport that I still think is a cool thing. I like motorbikes. I've tried to pack them in and I can't. I've got a shed full of them at home, and I like motorbike people. I've never met that many bad people within the paddock, and I can get on with most of them, and I like it. And it's difficult to come and watch a race meeting if you're not working because it just don't feel right. Yeah. But the commentating thing keeps me. I've got a reason to be here, and I like it. The team management thing, I can't say I've ever been. I'd love to run a team and see if I'd be any good at it. But do you know, every decent team manager I've ever had has been not obsessive, but the hardest working people you ever meet. They never stop, and it takes you away from home for chunks of time, and they haven't got any time for much else. And I'm not sure whether it's a commitment thing, and I'm not sure whether I won't want to half do it. If you know what I mean.
What you see from the TV, isn't
oh,
it?
Mate.
Absolutely.
And I've had some bad team managers that are lazy, and I've had some good team managers, and the good ones always are workaholics.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that style that you had of riding, and I think that's probably one of the things as I was a kid looking at. You rode the bike completely different to anybody else. You were hanging off the style, maybe a little bit like sort of Ben Wilson does now.
It is a bit Ben Wilson-ish, yeah.
How did that come about?
I don't know. I mean, who knows how you style? You don't ever. I mean, you've been there. You don't go out there thinking, I've got to look a certain way or ride a certain way. You kind of develop your style based on what bike you're riding, and now you think you can go quickest, and that's what happened. I don't know. I mean, I never knew we were that different until you start looking at pictures where there's a pack of people. You think, oh yeah, and it looks quite awful. A lot of pictures I've got, it ain't a classic style, and I kind of admire the classic style riders like your Biaggi's and your. I didn't even Doohan. I've followed Doohan briefly. I mean, he was better than me, but his style was so awkward. It didn't look comfortable, and I really admire people. I tell you, who's got a lovely style, is Michael Rutter. You follow him, and it just looks like he could do it all day long without breaking sweat. And I like that. And I was never relaxed. I was always a little bit. He wanted not that. I was trying hard, wasn't I? Yeah. Always.
Sometimes too hard.
Yeah, and that's the point. So I don't know where the style came from, and I don't know.
All right, and I guess one question. I'm not sure whether I want to ask this. I'm not sure what answer you're going to give us, but you made the number 69 kind of famous or infamous.
Yeah.
Why number 69? Try and keep it clean.
Yeah, well, a load of reasons. Because what happened was, a time when I was getting good, strangely enough, at the early part of my career, even in British Championship racing or whatever it was called then, you were given a number each meeting. You'd enter, and you might be given number 10 one weekend and number whatever next weekend. And the top riders at the time they'd allow like your Mick Grants would keep 10, your Roger Marshall 11, obviously Sheeny 7, and I was getting to the stage when I felt good enough to ask for a number, but they'd all gone. All the good numbers, the low numbers, were associated with whoever, various people, and I didn't want to sort of step on their toes, and I thought I need a number, and at the time I was doing a lot of crashing. I was pretty quick, but I was doing a lot of crashing. And it was a guy called Tony Salt who used to do the Michelin tyre service at the meetings. And Salty says, you know what number you want? I said, what? He said, 69. And we all had a laugh. And I said, why? He said, because, you know why? It's same upside down as what it is the other. It's same both way around. And when your bike's cartwheeling towards a flipping crowd, you can tell it's me, yeah. So, and that's it. And yeah.
Excellent. So, Jim, It's been great talking to you. I know we've never had the chance to ride against you on track, but we did go elbow to elbow at Aston, and I thoroughly enjoyed that dash down towards the front row and managed to get Sykes before you did.
Yeah,
So that's
you did
my
that.
scoop. I'm quite happy for that. So
No worries.
have a good weekend, and it's always good to see you around the paddock. And thank you for sort of getting me involved in the sport, mate.
Cheers, Michael.
All right, appreciate it.
Cheers, fellas. Thank you.